Good morning. As the Mayor of Thame, I am honoured to welcome you all on this historic day, marking Thame's forgotten casualties in times of conflict. Today's event is the culmination of many years of dedication and hard work by a small group of highly committed individuals, aided by many community volunteers, to honour and commemorate those from our town who gave their lives for our freedom. I would now like to extend a warm welcome to Councillor Mike Dyer, Project Coordinator for Thame Remembers, to tell us more. Mike. Please sit down.
Good morning, and thank you all for joining us on a very special day. To relate the background, back in 2014, we set up the Thame Remembers Project to commemorate the centenary of the First World War. And during the project, we intended to research all of the names on this and on other memorials and memorial boards throughout Thame. Similar projects were springing up all over the country, but in Thame, we took things a stage further. We challenged the community of Thame to visit the grave or battlefield memorial of every one of these men, wherever in the world that may be. It was an extremely ambitious undertaking. The people of Thame rose to the challenge, and they visited over 130 sites in 23 countries and across 4 continents to commemorate our 212 war dead. They travelled to places as close as St Mary's Church here in Thame, and as far away as New Zealand, India, Tanzania, Singapore, Egypt, Gallipoli, South Korea, Tunisia, Bahrain, Palestine, I could go on, as well as many locations in France, Belgium, and Germany. There were not only soldiers, but airmen too. Most of the airmen were bomber crews, and therefore in Northern Europe, and sailors at Scapa Flow and the Bristol Channel. Others in watery graves in the Mediterranean and off the coast of East Africa. And one notable achievement of our project was a wreath laid from the stern of the Queen Mary II directly over the wreck of a vessel sunk in the Western Approaches. Thank you, Cunard, for that one and their cooperation. This has been an altogether magnificent achievement by the people of Thame, and as part of the project's legacy, we have previously installed the themed bench, which you see in front of the memorial. We are now pleased to add a new lecture and display cabinet, which tells the stories of the War Memorial itself and of the Thame Remembers Project. Got it. Securely fitted so the wind didn't catch it. During our extensive research, we identified 30 men from Thame who had died in conflict, but whose names had been missed from any memorial in the town. We wanted to correct that omission, and after verifying our evidence, Thame Town Council agreed that the men should take their rightful place on the Roll of Honour in equal measure to those already commemorated. We are therefore here today to honour those men by adding their names to the War Memorial, cementing their place in Thames heritage. I now call on Anushka Bhattacharya and Zach Harris from Lord Williams's School to please read out the 30 names.
"17 names from World War I are: Sapper George Alfred Bateman, Royal Engineers; Private John William Bowler, Coldstream Guards;
Private William Chowns, Canadian Infantry; Driver Sackville George Crick, Australian Army Service Corps; Lieutenant Colonel George Alfred Edsall, Royal Army Medical Corps;
Rifleman Sidney Stephen Edwards, London Rifle Brigade; Captain Richard John Philip Hewitson, Loyal North Lancashire Regiment; Gunner Harry Howland, Royal Garrison Artillery;
Trooper William James Lewis, Household Battalion; Private Charles Roy Monckton Morris, Royal Fusiliers; Private George Asplin Pask, London Regiment;
Sapper George Payne, Royal Engineers; Lance Corporal Reginald Phillips, Oxfordshire and Buckinghamshire Light Infantry; Private Lewis Rhymes, Gloucestershire Regiment;
Boy First Class Frank Tickler, Royal Navy; Private Alfred Willis, Durham Light Infantry; Private Harry Cooper Wilsden, Middlesex Regiment.
And 12 names from World War II are: Lance Sergeant Charles Frederick Bristow, George Medal, Royal Engineers; Sub-Lieutenant Henry Bennett Cook, Royal Navy Volunteer Reserve;
Private William Freeman, Queen's Own Royal West Kent Regiment; Flying Officer Ernest Thomas George Harris, Royal Air Force Volunteer Reserve; Lance Corporal Ronald Frank Harris, Oxfordshire and Buckinghamshire Light Infantry;
Guardsman Charles Stanley Kiddy, Grenadier Guards; Captain Sidney Charles Marskall Dicker, Wiltshire Regiment; Sergeant Norman Kenneth Millard, Royal Air Force Volunteer Reserve;
Sergeant Ian Malcolm Keith Miller, Royal Air Force Volunteer Reserve; Sergeant Herbert John Odie, Royal Air Force Volunteer Reserve; Leading Aircraftsman John Eric Jesse Phillips, Royal Air Force Volunteer Reserve;
and Corporal Thomas John Timms, Oxfordshire and Buckinghamshire Light Infantry. Plus one from the Cyprus conflict in the 1950s, Warrant Officer Joseph Arthur Castle, British Empire Medal, Royal Engineers.
Thank you for reading out those names. That was very, very poignant. Good morning. I am David Brotherton, and I initiated and led the Thame Remembers Project. It is now my great pleasure to introduce His Royal Highness, the Duke of Gloucester, and invite him to approach the platform and to actually, sorry, they've changed the programme from my... So invite him to come up here, say a few words, and then we will unveil the memorial. Try to get up here. Thank you. I'll stand with you. Thank you.
A tombstone marks the last resting place of an individual. A war memorial has a different purpose. It not only lists those who have sacrificed themselves willingly or unwillingly for the sake of their country. But it also marks with pride the contribution that the community that the War Memorial is situated in those who have helped to save their country. And I think it is very appropriate that we have so many war memorials dotted all around the country, put up with pride to commemorate those who made that sacrifice and to express the pride that that community has in those people who took part in it. Now, if you have a world war, like World War I or World War II, there are many conflicts in different places. And it is easy to understand why the 30 names commemorated today were not immediately noticed when the War Memorial was first erected. And so I congratulate all those who have diligently searched and found these names, and to place them appropriately here on your War Memorial, so that they and their families and their descendants would know that they were as much as part of this community's contribution to the war as those who were already here. And so with congratulations to those who notice these missing names and wanted them to be in the right place at the right time. And I hope that you won't ask me next year to come and add another name who has now been discovered in some distant computer in another place. So I feel that all of you who are here today should look at those names, and they did sound like a distinguished lot with various medals and various ranks in so many different places. And so it gives me great pleasure to unveil this plaque and to acknowledge their contribution. And do you have an annual ceremony here?
I should be saying this through the microphone, but I can't. We now have a small presentation to make. At the end of our project, we produced a book with all the 212 names in it. And what I'd like to do is for our youngest members, Thea and Arthur, to present a copy to His Royal Highness.
Thank you very much.
Thank you, Your Highness. I'm delighted to see the names on those new plaques. We've been working towards this moment for a long time. And I just pointed out to His Royal Highness, the new ones are nice clean ones with no green patination. The one large one at the bottom is for World War One, and we shuffled the ones on the World War Two ones, which are the ones at the top. And each of the graves visited during the project, Thame Remembers held a small service of commemoration. And we think it's important that we do that once more today. So may I ask all those who are able to stand. And for Mike to come up here and please read the exhortation.
They shall grow not old, as we who are left grow old. Age shall not weary them, nor the years condemn. At the going down of the sun, and in the morning, we will remember them.
When we go home, we will tell them of you and say, for our tomorrow, you gave your today. Please be seated. His Royal Highness will now lay a wreath on behalf of the King. I think your wreath is coming, sir. All right. Right, 3 more wreaths, one by the Chair of Oxfordshire County Council, the Chair of South Oxfordshire District Council and the Mayor of Thame. And finally, a wreath on behalf of the Thame Remembers Project, laid by our Chief Researcher, Alan Hickman. Right, I'm going to now invite Nicky Rochford to come forward to draw proceedings to a close and to lead us in the National Anthem.
God save our gracious King, long live our noble King. God save the King. Send him victorious, happy and glorious, long to reign over us. God save the King.
Please be seated. So that marks the end of the formal proceedings. So it only remains for me to say thank you, Your Royal Highness, for coming here and for the guests and for joining us on this special day for our town, and to thank the many members of our community for their support throughout the Thame Remembers Project and their attendance today. Could I just ask you please remain seated whilst His Royal Highness and the party depart?